Good morning, y'all. It's your favorite auntie, Aisha, and welcome to Urban Awakenings. So, I decided to have a chit chat with you guys while I did some work this morning. And what I wanted to talk about today is we as human beings spend a lot of time focused on the negative and what's wrong with the world, and even as light workers, pointing out the things that need to be fixed or the things that need to be changed. This story was inspired me to point out the things that are changing, and I, for one, feel like they're changing for a positive. Okay, so here's the story. Recently, there was a female rapper and a male rapper, and they were on a panel and they were talking smack back and forth to each other, a little flirty. And the male rapper decides to try to kiss the female rapper in the mouth. I guess he thought this would be a good idea. And the masses were quick to point out this is sexual assault. And it became this battle of the sexes thing where men were like, well, that's what she puts in her rap music. I mean, some women too. That's what she puts in her rap music. What do you expect? And other people were like, kissing somebody, forcing your lips to meet their lips without their consent is sexual assault. So I was sitting somewhere in the middle of this, just watching the situation and drawing conclusions. By all terms and purposes, it is sexual assault, technically. It is sexual batteries. Bottom line is, he was forcing a part of himself onto her without her consent. If you look at the video, you'll see she's very much so uncomfortable. She's leaning. She's trying to get away. So, yes. Then there were other people. Now, before I could even get on my high horse and give my opinion about he needs to be arrested or blah, 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 blah. I mean, I wasn't, but you know what I'm saying. There was a video circulating of her twerking on a 10-year-old. And people were pointing out that's sexual assault too. And I was like, yeah, it is. That is a problem. So they were like, how come women aren't speaking out for her to get locked up and they're speaking out for him to get locked up? Well, for one, it's the tradition of men and women in society. And this is the part that's changing. And this is the part that's evolving. And this is the part that I'm quite happy about things that are happening in 2023. Her twerking on a 10-year-old. Traditionally, men will look at that 10-year-old like, oh, you lucky boy. Oh, you got a grown woman twerking. Oh, boy, you better handle that. The rapper Bootsy said that in order he wouldn't accept his children being gay, he got a prostitute for his son to have sex with when his son was like 14. That's sexual assault. Having a grown woman molest an underage child. At the end of the day, Bootsy didn't go to jail. Suki didn't go to jail. YK Osiris, I'm like, should he go to jail? Two wrongs don't make a right. No, two wrongs do not make a right. I am glad that the country, the society, the collective as a whole is evolving to, hey, you cannot just touch somebody without their consent. Respect of personal space, respect of your own personal energy. When I was growing up, it was not like that. And yeah, I don't mind saying I'm 46, but when I was growing up, I'll take 12 years old, 13 years old. 12 years old was the first age that I started becoming sexualized by men, and I was telling my wife the other day, we were talking about my 16-year-old and how she dresses. And her whole thing is, I don't want you dressed in a certain way because I don't want men looking at you and sexualizing you. And I'm telling her, As a 12-year-old girl, I was flat-chested. I was just not going through puberty, and men were still sexualizing me. I didn't have the things that make a woman, and I was still being sexualized. They thought it was okay. To this day, I have patients that I see at the nursing home that sexually harass me every time they see me, that are asking me for my phone number. Like, if I've told you no, why are you asking over and over and over again? They are the residue that is left from the old way of thinking. They think it's okay to harass me over and over again. I guess they think eventually I'll say yes. I don't know. I don't know the premise of why you would think that harassment would equal you getting what you want. And maybe at some point in time in life that worked. Maybe that worked for men. Oh, I'm going to just be super aggressive and she's going to like that. And, to me, that's like a very primal way of thinking. It's very animalistic. And I'm not knocking and I'm not judging. This is just my opinion. It's the law of the jungle. It's the whichever lion is the most aggressive will take the female and be able to mate with her. And we are mammals. And it comes from, we need some more frontal lobe thinking. But you know what? I really do say this, and I'm not trying to be funny, and I'm not trying to insult the previous generation above my generation, the boomers. But I tell people that the boomers were less aware of certain things. And this is just the evolution of society, the natural development. Information didn't travel as fast as it does now. They were less aware of certain things, and there were certain things that were happening. And even then, they were taught not to speak out about certain things. They were taught what goes on in the house stays in the house. I remember my parents told me that once. Nice try. But, it was just naturally in me to be vocal and to point out things that weren't right. Hey, this doesn't seem right. This doesn't seem right to you. And it successfully broke a generational curse of women getting molested and raped, at least in my family. Speaking out and teaching the next generation to speak out. I loved to see women saying, hey, sir, you had no right to put your hands on this woman. And he publicly apologized to her, which was, fantastic. She made a comment about being super sensitive and drinking to deal with the fact that she's super sensitive, which is something that people do. They drink to handle their emotions. So there's not a really big deal there for society to hear that, even though that's a really big problem, but that's neither here nor there. But the fact that you just cannot, in 2023, put your hands on somebody without their consent. Bravo. I applaud that all day. When I was 12, 13 years old, my parents would send me to the store to get toilet paper, dog food, things like that. And there was a group of boys that hung out in front of the store. And I'll say maybe 10 boys. They're all 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, hypersexualized, just very much macho and aggressive. And for me, I would have to fight, to shove, to literally fight. I'm not talking about verbally. I'm talking about literally. I would get into physical fights with these boys because they would grab me. They would put their hands on my butt. They would pull me. They would grab me and grope me just to get inside of the store. My parents, this is the crazy part. My parents unknowingly sent me to the store at 13 because my brother was 9. They didn't want to send my brother because they didn't want my brother to be influenced by gangs. They didn't want the boys to influence my brother to join a gang. But my brother was very, very big. Nobody was going to mess with them. So they sent me. I'm vulnerable. I'm small. I'm a girl. I see all type of conversations online about masculine women. About, oh, women are so masculine and they're not feminine and they're not submissive. And I want viewers to understand that part of my masculine development and maybe a masculine aspect of my psyche came from having to fight boys in order to do an errand for my parents. I had to physically fight. I learned how to be tough. I learned how to smack the shit out of a boy that groped me because I had to demand my respect. I noticed that later on in life, in my 20s, because I had fought all of these boys, they had a certain respect for me, and they did not treat me the way they treated other women. They did not harass me even, into my 20s. They had a certain respect. Move out the way when I'm coming through the door because I physically fought for that respect. I noticed the way they treated other women. I noticed the way they called them derogatory names. I was raised in the 90s. I was a teenager in the 90s when the artist Boss had a song called My Sister is a Bitch. And she was calling herself a bitch. And, Snoop Dogg and Dre had bitches ain't shit but hoes and tricks. I lived in an era where it was nothing to call a woman a bitch. And it's so funny because now at the age that we are as grown men, these grown men have daughters, they have mothers. You would think they have matured to a level of, maybe it's wrong to disrespect a woman. I wouldn't want nobody doing that to my sister. I wouldn't want nobody doing that to my mother. I wouldn't want nobody doing that to my daughter. But since it's so embedded in them from the 90s, from being teenagers, and this is what was embedded in their psyche, there's nothing to them calling a woman a bitch. What I'm telling you is, while it was not okay for this rapper to force himself, this is where it comes from. It came from the previous generations. It came from my generation. It came from these hypersexual men that thought it was okay to harass women, to pick younger women, to groom high school women while they were in their 20s. R. Kelly culture. We all knew. I'm from Chicago. We all knew that R. Kelly liked to deal with young girls. I physically saw it with my own 2 eyes. But back then, it was normal. It was normal for a 17-year-old to have I thought, this is the crazy part. She was 17, I was 14. He was out of high school. I thought he was 18 at the time, but he was more like 21, 22. Once I got older, I realized just how much older R. Kelly was than I was because we had the same music teacher. I've met him multiple times. He's come to my church when I was younger. I've been around him. And the 17-year-old told me she had his phone number. And I was like, you lying. You don't have his phone number. So we go out and go to a payphone. And she had his pager number. I'm telling my age on this internet. But anyway, she had his pager number. So we go outside to the payphone in the hallway in the school. And she pages him, and I hear the pager going off while he was in the music room to prove to me that she had his pager number. Now, at the end of the day, she was in high school. He was not. That is wrong. But it was normal back then. I am glad that evolution is going towards respect my personal space. Your personal space has your aura in it. Your aura can extend 3 feet in front of you. It is all the way up here, and it extends out. Your energy field extends outwards. So it's not just your person. This is why people don't like sitting next to each other in public spaces, the airport, on the bus. This is why they like to keep a gap in between them. See, people don't know. They just know they feel funny with a stranger sitting too close to them, because that strangers is literally in their energy field, literally in their aura. So, kudos to the new generation for saying, we cannot allow this. We cannot allow this to happen. Kudos to the young men and young women in this generation that say, you aren't going to just treat me any type of way. You're going to treat me with respect. I'm here for it. I'm here for it. So before I go, I would like to talk to you about two things. I would like to talk to you about a crystal. This crystal is called a blue agate. This crystal is on sale at my website, urbanawakenings.org. Let's see what it does. I'm going to tell you the reason why I wore this crystal. I have a blog on urbanawakenings.org that is about this crystal specifically. But the reason I chose this crystal to wear in this video is a lot of crystals have metaphysical properties that not only go along with the specific crystal, but they go along with the color. The color blue represents the fifth chakra, the throat chakra. I needed this crystal I didn't need it, but I chose to wear this crystal because of the metaphysical properties of communication. Hey, I'm making a video. I want my communication to be concise, articulate, easy, not struggling, not difficult. This stone also relieves stress. It helps with anxiety and depression. It helps with concentration, reducing anger, illness, inflammation in the body. All of my crystals are very affordable, so I encourage you to go online, look it up. I have free shipping to the continental U.S. If you are in Chicago, and I see that you're in Chicago, I usually do deliveries around Chicagoland on the weekends, so I will hit you up and see if you want a delivery, because at this point, it's cheaper for me to drop it off myself than to put it in the mail. So hit me up. That's the number one. Number two, I want to show you this. This is not a crystal. This chain is 20 years old. I have very old pieces of jewelry. I'm a jewelry person. I bought these earrings at a thrift store, and I thought they were like really dope. But this chain, this is my wife's chain. And I bought this for her 20 years ago. We just recently celebrated our 21st anniversary. Now, some people might be like, I've seen you in another relationship. Yes, I've had another relationship in the past 21 years because we broke up. But we needed a break. We needed that break. So trust me, we are back. We are doing better than ever. We are committed to our partnership, and life is great. I just want to send a shout out to my wife. Happy anniversary, baby. I love you so much. Not a day goes by that I don't love you, and every day I love you more and more. One last thing while I'm at it. Okay. Things like this, buying them at a thrift store, this is my tip. Clean it. Things like this have energy on it. This belonged to someone else if I bought this from a thrift store. Clean it. You never know what type of energy is on there. And if you want to know how to clean people, places, and things, there are blogs on the website, urbanawakenings.org. Take care, you guys.